The morning started like every other morning, in the glass tower that touched the clouds. Marcus Chen stood in front of the massive window of his corner office, watching the city wake up below him. His reflection stared back at him from the glass. A man in an expensive suit who looked like he had everything figured out. But behind those tired eyes was a story nobody in the boardroom ever saw. His phone buzzed on the marble desk, breaking the silence. The annual charity gala was tonight, and everyone expected him to bring someone special. They always did. The board members would whisper if he showed up alone again. They would give him those looks that said a successful man like him should have a beautiful woman on his arm. Marcus picked up the business card his assistant had left on his desk 3 days ago. Elite Companions, it read in gold letters. Professional, discreet, no complications. He had fought against this idea for weeks, telling himself it was ridiculous to hire someone to pretend to care about him. But the pressure was too much. The questions were too many. His 7-year-old daughter Emma didn't need to hear more whispers about why Daddy was always alone. Marcus made the call before he could change his mind. The woman who answered had a voice like honey, professional and warm at the same time. She said her name was Grace, and she would be perfect for what he needed. Just one night, just a few hours of pretending everything was normal. The price didn't matter. Money had never been the problem in his life. The problem was the empty space beside him that used to be filled with laughter and love. The problem was coming home to a house that felt too big and too quiet, even with Emma's toys scattered everywhere. The problem was teaching himself how to braid hair from YouTube videos at midnight, because Emma wanted princess braids for school, and he didn't know how to say no to those big brown eyes that looked exactly like her mother's. Sarah had been gone for 3 years now. 3 years since the car accident that changed everything. 3 years of learning how to be both mother and father. 3 years of Emma asking when Mommy was coming back from heaven. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock that evening. Marcus adjusted his bow tie one more time and opened the door. The woman standing there took his breath away, but not in the way he expected. She wasn't trying too hard like he thought she would be. Grace wore a simple black dress that touched her knees, her dark hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. Her smile was gentle, not the practiced smile he saw in business meetings. She looked real, and that scared him more than anything. "Mr. Chen," she said, and her voice was even warmer in person. "I'm Grace. Thank you for choosing our service." Marcus nodded and stepped aside to let her in. The house suddenly felt different with her there, like someone had opened a window and let fresh air into a room that had been closed for too long. Before he could say anything, the sound of small feet running down the stairs filled the hallway. Emma appeared in her favorite pink pajamas with unicorns on them, her hair still messy from her afternoon nap. She stopped when she saw Grace, her eyes growing wide with wonder. "Daddy, who is the pretty lady?" Emma asked, hiding slightly behind Marcus's leg but peeking out with curiosity. Grace did something unexpected then. Instead of standing there, awkwardly like most adults did when they met Emma, she knelt down to Emma's level. She didn't seem to care that her expensive dress might get wrinkled. "Hi there, sweetheart. I'm Grace. I love your pajamas. Are those unicorns?" Emma's face lit up like Christmas morning. She stepped out from behind Marcus and moved closer to Grace. "They are unicorns. This one is named Sparkles, and this one is Rainbow. Do you like unicorns too?" Grace nodded seriously, as if this was the most important conversation in the world. "I love unicorns. When I was your age, I had a stuffed unicorn named Moonbeam. She went everywhere with me." Emma gasped with delight and grabbed Grace's hand without hesitation. "Come see my room. I have 12 unicorns. Daddy says that's too many, but I think you can never have too many unicorns." Marcus watched in amazement as his usually shy daughter pulled this stranger up the stairs, chattering away like they had known each other forever. Marcus followed them upstairs, his heart doing strange things in his chest. He found them in Emma's room, Grace sitting on the small pink bed, while Emma showed her each stuffed animal and explained their names and special powers. Grace listened with genuine interest, asking questions and making Emma giggle with her responses. When Grace pretended to make one of the unicorns fly around the room, Emma laughed so hard she fell backwards on her bed. It was a sound Marcus hadn't heard in months, pure and free and full of joy. "Miss Grace, are you Daddy's girlfriend?" Emma asked suddenly, the way children do when thoughts pop into their heads. Grace glanced at Marcus, who had frozen in the doorway. She handled it perfectly. "I'm your daddy's friend, and we're going to a party tonight. Is that okay with you?" Emma considered this seriously. Then her face fell a little. "Does that mean you're leaving?" "Everyone always leaves." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He started to move forward, but Grace gently touched Emma's cheek. "You know what? The party isn't for a while. Would it be okay if I stayed and had dinner with you first? I'd love to hear more about your unicorns." Emma's face transformed with hope. "Really? You want to stay? Daddy, can she stay for dinner? Please, please, please." Marcus found himself nodding before he could think about it. This wasn't part of the arrangement. Grace was supposed to show up, go to the gala, smile for photos, and leave. But the way Emma was looking at her, the way Grace was looking at Emma, it felt like something bigger than a business transaction. They had spaghetti for dinner because it was Emma's favorite. Grace didn't seem to mind when Emma accidentally flicked sauce on her dress. She just laughed and said it added character. She helped Emma twirl her spaghetti like a professional, and they had a contest to see who could make the longest noodle. Marcus watched them from his seat, feeling like he was seeing his daughter, truly happy for the first time since Sarah died. When Grace helped clean up without being asked, when she knew exactly how to load the dishwasher, when she automatically started wiping down the counters while humming a soft tune, it felt like she belonged there. "Bath time, princess," Marcus said when the kitchen was clean. Emma's usual protests didn't come. Instead, she looked at Grace with those big eyes. "Can Miss Grace help with bath time? She probably knows how to make the best bubble beards." Grace looked at Marcus for permission, and he found himself nodding again. What was happening here? This wasn't the plan. But nothing about tonight was going according to plan. While Grace helped Emma with her bath, Marcus stood in the hallway listening to their laughter. Emma was telling Grace about her best friend at school, about how she was learning to read big books now, about how Daddy sometimes burned the toast, but she ate it anyway because she didn't want to hurt his feelings. Grace listened to everything, really listened, asking questions and sharing her own stories. When they emerged, Emma was wrapped in her favorite towel with her hair wet and wild. "Daddy, Miss Grace knows how to do French braids. Can she do my hair?" Marcus watched Grace gently brush Emma's hair, her fingers working with practiced ease. She told Emma stories while she braided, about princesses and dragons and brave little girls who saved the day. Emma was starting to get sleepy by the time Grace finished the second braid. She leaned against Grace's shoulder, fighting to keep her eyes open. "Miss Grace, I wish you could stay forever," Emma whispered. "You make Daddy smile. He doesn't smile much anymore since Mommy went to heaven." The words hung in the air, like a prayer. Grace's eyes met Marcus's across the room, and he saw tears there that matched his own. She kissed the top of Emma's head gently. "Your daddy loves you so much, sweetheart. More than all the stars in the sky." Emma nodded sleepily. "I know, but he's lonely. I hear him crying sometimes at night when he thinks I'm sleeping. I wish Mommy would send him someone to make him not sad anymore." Marcus had to leave the room. He stood in the hallway, pressing his palms against his eyes, trying to stop the tears. He didn't know Emma had heard him. He thought he had been so careful, so strong. But children see everything, feel everything, even when we try to protect them. When Grace emerged from Emma's room after tucking her in, she found Marcus sitting on the hallway floor, his head in his hands. She sat down beside him, not saying anything at first. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that happens when two people understand something without words. "She's amazing," Grace finally whispered. "You've done an incredible job with her." Marcus laughed, but it was broken. "I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'm trying to be both parents, but I'm failing at being even one. She deserves so much more than a dad who doesn't know how to French braid or make bubble beards or any of the things her mom would have known." Grace was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that changed everything. "My husband died 4 years ago. Cancer. We never got to have children. I became a companion because I was so lonely I thought I might disappear. Being with people for a few hours, pretending to be okay, it was better than being alone with the ghosts." Marcus looked at her then, really looked at her. She wasn't just a hired date. She was a person with her own grief, her own story, her own empty spaces. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it. "About your husband, about everything." Grace smiled sadly. "Me too. But you know what? Tonight, with Emma, with you, it's the first time in 4 years I haven't felt like I was pretending." They sat there on the floor for a long time, two broken people finding something in each other they didn't expect to find. Finally, Marcus stood and offered her his hand. "We should probably go to the gala. Although honestly, I'd rather stay here and watch Disney movies with Emma." Grace laughed, and it was real. "Me too. But we have a deal, Mr. Chen. Besides, I want to see if you're as bad at dancing as Emma says you are." The gala was everything Marcus expected. Bright lights, expensive champagne, people in designer clothes talking about things that didn't matter. But with Grace beside him, it felt different. She didn't try to impress anyone. She was just herself, warm and genuine and real. When bored, members asked how they met. She simply said they were introduced by a friend, which wasn't entirely a lie. When the wives pulled her aside to ask about her dress, she made them laugh with a story about Emma and the spaghetti sauce. During the slow dance, Marcus held her close and whispered, "This isn't what I expected." Grace looked up at him. "What did you expect?" He thought about it. Someone fake. Someone who would smile and nod and disappear at midnight, like Cinderella. She smiled. "Well, I did lose a shoe on your front steps earlier when Emma dragged me inside." They both laughed, and the people watching them saw what looked like a couple truly in love. But what they didn't see was two people discovering that sometimes love comes from the most unexpected places. When the evening ended, and they drove back to Marcus's house, neither of them wanted to say goodbye. They sat in the car in the driveway, the engine off, the night quiet around them. "Emma's going to ask for you tomorrow," Marcus said. "I don't know what to tell her." Grace was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "What if you didn't have to tell her anything? What if I just came back?" Marcus's heart stopped. "Grace, I can't ask you to do that. This was a business arrangement. I can't pay you to be in our lives." "Then don't pay me," Grace said simply. "Just let me come back. Let me be part of Emma's life. And maybe, if you're willing, part of yours too. Not as a hired companion. Just as Grace." Marcus didn't know what to say. This morning he had been a single father hiring a fake girlfriend. Tonight he was sitting with a woman who had made his daughter laugh, who had sat on his hallway floor and shared his grief, who was offering something he had stopped believing was possible. "It won't be easy," he warned. "Emma has bad days. I have bad days. Sometimes the grief hits like a wave, and we can barely breathe. Sometimes she cries for her mother, and I don't know how to fix it. Sometimes I'm at the office until midnight, because I don't know how to balance everything." Grace reached over and took his hand. "I have bad days too. Sometimes I set the table for two, and remember, I'm alone. Sometimes I wake up and reach for someone who isn't there. But maybe, together, the bad days won't be quite so bad." They agreed she would come for breakfast the next morning. Just breakfast. Just to see Emma. Just to see how it felt in the daylight, without the pretense of a business arrangement. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about the way Emma had leaned into Grace, the way Grace had known exactly what to do, the way it had felt to have someone else in the house who understood loss. The next morning, Emma woke up asking for Miss Grace before she even opened her eyes fully. "Is she coming back, Daddy?" She said she would come back. Marcus was saved from answering by the doorbell. Emma flew down the stairs so fast, Marcus was afraid she would fall. When she yanked open the door and saw Grace standing there with a box of donuts and a stuffed unicorn, she launched herself into Grace's arms with a squeal of joy. "You came back. You really came back. Nobody ever comes back but you did." Grace caught her and held her tight. Over Emma's head, her eyes met Marcus's, and he saw the same hope there that he felt in his chest. That breakfast turned into lunch, which turned into a trip to the park, which turned into dinner again. Grace didn't leave that night until after Emma was asleep, and only then because she needed clean clothes. But she came back the next morning, and the next, and the next. Within a month, she had a drawer in the guest room. Within 2 months, Emma was calling her Gracie and refusing to go to school unless Grace did her hair. Within 3 months, Marcus realized he was in love with her. Not the desperate, needy love of someone afraid to be alone, but the real kind, the kind that grows slowly from shared moments and understood silences and the way she sang in the shower when she thought no one was listening. The day he proposed wasn't planned. They were at Emma's school play, watching her be a tree in the background, both of them taking too many pictures and embarrassing her with their enthusiasm. Emma forgot her line and looked panicked, but then she saw Grace in the audience, mouthing the words, and she remembered. After the play, Emma ran to them, her tree costume rustling. "Did you see me? I was the best tree, the very best tree," Grace agreed, kissing her forehead. "I'm so proud of you." Emma looked between them and said, "Samantha's mom said, 'You're not my real mom.' But I told her real moms are the ones who stay, and you stayed." Grace's eyes filled with tears. Marcus knew in that moment he couldn't wait another day. Right there in the school auditorium, still surrounded by paper trees and cardboard clouds, he got down on one knee. "Grace, you came into our lives when we needed you most. You taught us how to laugh again, how to hope again, how to be a family again. Emma's right. Real love is the kind that stays. Will you stay with us forever? Will you marry me?" Emma gasped and started jumping up and down. "Say yes, Gracie. Say yes. We already picked out a ring, but Daddy said we had to wait, but I can't wait anymore. Please say yes." Grace was laughing and crying at the same time. She pulled Marcus to his feet and kissed him right there in front of everyone. "Yes," she said. "Forever yes." The wedding was small, just family and close friends in the backyard. Emma was the flower girl and the maid of honor and the one who gave Grace away, because, as she announced to everyone, she was the one who had found Grace first. When the judge asked if anyone objected, Emma raised her hand and said, "I object. To this taking so long? Can they be married now, please?" Everyone laughed, and the judge pronounced them husband and wife and Emma's official parents, because Emma insisted that part be included. That night, as they tucked Emma into bed together for the first time as a married couple, she looked up at them with sleepy eyes. "Mommy in heaven sent you, didn't she, Gracie? She knew we needed you." Grace smoothed Emma's hair back gently. "Maybe she did, sweetheart. Maybe she did." 2 years later, when Grace gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, Emma announced to everyone at the hospital that she was the best big sister in the world because she had wished for siblings every night, and Grace had given her 2 at once. She held the babies carefully, one in each arm, with Marcus and Grace on either side of her, and said, "Our family is complete now. But if anyone else wants to join, we have room. Love makes room." Marcus looked at his family. The one he never expected to have again. The one that started with a desperate phone call and a hired date. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes what starts as pretend becomes the most real thing in the world. Sometimes a single dad CEO orders a girlfriend for a party, and his daughter asks if she can stay forever, and somehow, miraculously, she does. Grace caught his eye over the children's heads and mouthed, "I love you." Marcus mouthed it back, then said it out loud, because love like this deserved to be spoken, shouted, celebrated. They had all learned that life was too short and too precious to leave important words unsaid. The business card for elite companions still sat in Marcus's desk drawer, tucked behind old photos and memories. He kept it as a reminder that sometimes the worst moments in our lives lead us to the best ones. That sometimes when we think we're just trying to survive, we're actually finding our way home. That sometimes a little girl's wish for someone to stay forever is exactly what everyone needs. And that love, real love, the kind that stays and grows and fills empty spaces with laughter and tears and everything in between, can find us even when we're not looking for it. Even when we think we're just hiring someone for one night. Even when we think our hearts are too broken to love again. "Daddy," Emma said one day, years later when she was a teenager, "remember when you hired Grace to be your girlfriend?" Marcus froze, not knowing she knew. Emma laughed. "I've known for years, Dad. Grace told me when I was old enough to understand. She said you both needed to pretend until you realized you weren't pretending anymore." She hugged him then, this teenager who was usually too cool for hugs. "Thank you for being brave enough to make that call. Thank you for letting her stay. Thank you for showing me that families can be made in all sorts of ways, and that love doesn't always look like what we expect." Marcus hugged his daughter back, remembering the scared little girl who had asked a stranger to stay forever. "Thank you for seeing what we couldn't see yet," he whispered. "Thank you for believing in forever when we had forgotten how." And in that house, full of children's laughter and homework at the kitchen table and bedtime, stories and all the beautiful chaos of a family built on second chances, the title of their story lived on. Because, yes, a single dad CEO had ordered a girlfriend for a party, but his daughter had asked the right question, the only question that mattered: can she stay forever? And in the end, against all odds and expectations, she did. She stayed, for breakfast and dinner, and midnight feedings, and first days of school, and graduation speeches, and wedding dances, and grandchildren, and all the moments that make a life. She stayed because sometimes what we order and what we need are two different things. Sometimes we ask for someone to pretend with us for a few hours, and instead we get someone to be real with us for a lifetime. Sometimes a little girl's innocent question changes everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, forever is exactly long enough. The end single dad CEO ordered a girlfriend for the party, but his daughter said, "Can she stay forever?" Sometimes the love we hire becomes the love we keep. Sometimes the families we build are stronger than the ones we're born into. And sometimes all it takes is one small voice asking the right question to change 3 lives forever.